Female anger, the forbidden emotion that needs to be reclaimed. How suppressing anger destroys women from the inside, and how to reclaim your power. They told her to smile, not because she was happy, but because she was supposed to be. Because a girl who smiles is easier to love, easier to tolerate, easier to ignore. From the earliest days, she learned that her anger was dangerous, not to others, to her. A furious boy was just emotional. A furious girl, a problem, a shame, a little drama queen, a disappointment. She cried once, loud and uncontrollable, and someone said she was overreacting. She slammed the door, and someone said she needed to be more ladylike. She said no, and someone punished her with silence. She was trained like a well-behaved pet. Smile, apologize, say, "It's fine." She was taught that her emotions were too much, her tone too sharp, her reaction too strong, her presence too overwhelming. So she learned to fold herself small, to press her fury deep down where no one could see it. She didn't stop being angry, she just stopped showing it. And in that silence, a slow decay began. The kind that doesn't scream, the kind that erodes. Her body started to carry what her words couldn't. Clenched jaws, tension behind the eyes, migraines that came without warning, stomachs that twisted themselves into knots, sleepless nights, constant fatigue. Because repressed emotions don't vanish. They bury themselves in the flesh. She became the good girl, the peacemaker, the one who holds it all together. Even as everything inside her was falling apart, she smiled at people who disrespected her. She helped people who never thanked her. She forgave people who never apologized. And the more she smiled, the more they took, because when you never say no, they think you never mean it. And when you never express anger, they assume you have none. But she did. She had storms inside her. She had a scream inside her throat that never made it out, because nice girls don't scream. And so the fire inside her turned cold, frozen rage wrapped in shame. But here's the truth. No one tells little girls, rage is not evil. Rage is not ugly. Rage is sacred. It is the boundary. It is the line in the sand. It is the force that rises when something violates your soul. The more they teach women to be soft, the more they steal their strength. But softness without anger is submission. Peace without voice is erasure. She was never meant to be pleasant. She was meant to be whole. Because suppressed rage doesn't die. It transforms. It either turns against others in bitterness or against herself in destruction. And that is where we begin, in the silence before the scream, in the tension behind the smile. In the moment a woman decides, I can't keep swallowing this, there is a place inside a woman that burns, not with destruction but with truth. It is the fire that lights up when someone crosses the line, the spark that ignites when her soul is silenced, dismissed, or trampled on. But most women have been taught to fear that fire, to see it as dangerous, hysterical, unfeminine, to believe that a woman in rage is broken rather than whole. So she hides it. She masks it with logic, distracts herself with chores, swallows it under polite smiles. And yet, the fire doesn't go out. It just moves into the shadows. In Jungian terms, this is the beginning of the shadow. Everything we're told not to be, we bury. And women have been burying their rage for generations. We're not supposed to feel it. We're supposed to endure. We're not supposed to protest. We're supposed to adjust. We're not supposed to fight. We're supposed to understand. And every time a woman chooses understanding over protection, a part of her disappears. But rage is not chaos. It's the nervous system's way of saying, "This is not okay." It is the guardian of your boundaries. The scream that says, "You've gone too far." The heat that rises not to burn, but to shield. Without rage, a woman becomes penetrable to anything. Criticism, manipulation, neglect, all seep in. Because there is no internal warrior to stand and say, "No, not here, not to me." And the longer this fire is suppressed, the more it distorts. It turns into irritability, into cynicism, into passive-aggressive comments, into silent treatments and fake smiles. It turns into autoimmune disorders, insomnia, chronic tension, because the body doesn't lie, and the soul never stops defending itself, even if the mouth stays quiet. The archetypes are all around us, but we've forgotten how to read them. Persephone, the girl stolen into the underworld, becomes queen of the dead, because she learns to own her darkness. Lilith, cast out for refusing to submit, becomes the symbol of rebellion. Medusa, once violated, turns men to stone, not because she is evil, but because she is unapproachable, untouchable. This is the evolution of female rage, from victimhood to sovereignty, from silence to sacred fury. The world tries to erase this fire, but it always finds a way. In the art women create, in the sharpness of their truth, in the refusal to be small. The most dangerous woman is not the one who shouts, it's the one who no longer apologizes for her anger, because now she understands. This fire is not her enemy. It is her guide. Rage shows you where your soul has been trespassed, where you need to say no louder, where you need to walk away, where you need to rise. It is not the emotion that makes you crazy. It is the emotion that makes you conscious. Because the woman who owns her rage owns herself. A woman who never gets angry is a woman slowly disappearing. She doesn't scream. She doesn't protest. She doesn't push back. But deep inside, something is rotting. You can see it in her eyes, tired, flat, endlessly patient. You can hear it in her voice, always soft, always kind, even when she's breaking. You can feel it in her body, always tense, always hurting, always on edge, because the body keeps the rage. It stores it in the shoulders, in the jaw, in the stomach. It locks it in the throat. It holds it in the chest like an unanswered cry. You've seen her. The woman who does everything for everyone, who never asks for anything, who smiles at people who hurt her, who stays when she should have left. And the world applauds her. They call her strong. They call her selfless. They call her a saint. But inside, she's vanishing, becoming a ghost of who she could have been. She's exhausted but doesn't rest. She's overwhelmed but doesn't ask for help. She's furious but doesn't raise her voice. She internalizes everything. And when you internalize rage, it turns inward. That's when the body starts to attack itself. Autoimmune conditions, chronic pain, hormonal imbalances, digestive disorders, panic attacks that come out of nowhere. Doctors give her pills, friends tell her to relax, and she wonders, why do I feel so empty? Because no one told her the truth. When you suppress your anger long enough, your body starts to scream for you. Not all women cry. Some get sick. Not all women fight back. Some develop anxiety. Not all women yell. Some collapse in silence. Because the rage didn't go away. It just changed form. It became migraines. It became weight gain. It became numbness. It became disconnection from the body. And in this numbness, she forgets what she needs, what she wants, who she is. She becomes functional, efficient, reliable, but not alive. She might snap one day, and people will say she's unstable. But what they don't see is the decades of swallowed emotions that led her there. She's not unstable. She's saturated. A woman doesn't break down out of nowhere. She breaks because she's been breaking silently, piece by piece, for years. Because this is what happens when you never let yourself be angry. You become a stranger to yourself. You don't need permission to rage. You need space to feel it without fear. Anger is not what makes women cruel. The absence of it is what makes them disappear. And the most painful thing a woman can lose is herself. There was a time when a woman's rage was sacred. It was the force that protected the tribe, the howl that warned of danger, the fire that refused injustice. But somewhere along the way it became dangerous, not for others, but for the system, because a woman who rages is a woman who sees, and a woman who sees is a threat. So they called her names. They called her a witch, a monster, a hysteric, a bitch. They burned her when she refused to obey. They locked her away when she refused to be quiet. They ridiculed her when she dared to express anything less than sweetness. They told her she was too emotional, too dramatic, too intense, too much. And little by little, she learned that if she wanted to survive, she had to shrink. She learned that her rage wasn't safe. It was punishable. That her voice didn't bring change. It brought isolation. That her truth didn't bring respect. It brought shame. So she became polite. She learned how to smile through humiliation, how to soften her tone so no one felt threatened, how to twist her anger into tears, because sadness is more acceptable than fury. She buried her edge under layers of diplomacy. She made herself palatable, even when her soul was on fire, and the world praised her for it. They said she was well-balanced, graceful, easy to love. But she wasn't loved. She was tolerated. There's a difference, because love doesn't require self-erasure. The culture taught her that being angry would make her lonely, that speaking up would push people away, that standing firm would leave her abandoned. So she made herself agreeable and abandoned herself first, just in case. This is how women are trained, not with whips, but with smiles, not with cages, but with compliments, not with chains, but with expectations. They break her not by punishing her anger, but by making her ashamed of it. And shame is the most effective leash. Because when you feel ashamed of your own fire, you'll put it out before anyone else does. You'll silence yourself, gaslight yourself, scold yourself for feeling anything at all. You'll look in the mirror and say, "What's wrong with me?" instead of asking, "What happened to me?" But rage is not the problem. Rage is the evidence of a boundary crossed, of a truth ignored, of a self abandoned. The fear of being labeled crazy has silenced millions of sane women, and the fear of being difficult has kept too many kind women in pain. But fury is not madness, it's medicine. The woman who dares to feel her rage is the woman who starts to remember who she is. There comes a moment when the silence becomes heavier than the scream, when the smile hurts more than the truth, when the body refuses to carry what the soul can no longer deny. This is where reclamation begins, not with revenge, not with destruction, but with remembering. Rage is not the enemy. It is the alarm system of the soul. It tells you what you cannot accept, where your limits are, and where your voice has been missing. To reclaim your rage is not to become cruel. It is to become conscious. First, you name it. You say it out loud. I'm angry, not as a confession, as a declaration. You stop explaining it away. Stop softening it to make others comfortable. Stop asking if it's valid. If you feel it, it is valid. Because anger doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from pain, from betrayal, from years of being unheard, unseen, unvalued. Then you let it move, not at others, through you. You scream in the car. You punch the pillow. You move your body. You shake. You write until your hand burns. You stop being a polite hostage of your own nervous system. You give the rage somewhere to go, and then you listen. What is it trying to tell you? Not about them, about you. Where have you abandoned yourself? Where have you stayed silent too long? Where do you need to build a door, not a wall? Where do you need to say, never again? Because rage is not the final state. It's the bridge, a passageway from powerlessness to power, from silence to truth, from pleasing to presence. It is sacred, elemental, a holy fire. You don't need to fear it, you need to respect it. Just like grief, it has a purpose. Just like love, it speaks. Just like intuition, it warns. A woman who allows herself to be angry is not broken. She is waking up. Because once you let the rage rise, something else rises with it. Clarity, voice, sovereignty. You start to say no without guilt. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop pretending to be okay when you're not. You become the woman you needed when you were younger. Not soft in all the wrong places, not endlessly forgiving, not invisible, present, rooted, whole. This isn't about becoming aggressive, it's about becoming honest. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to say, that hurt. You're allowed to refuse to carry what was never yours. And above all, you're allowed to stop being nice if it's killing you. Your rage was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to protect you. Like a mother lion shielding her cubs, like a storm clearing what can no longer stand, like a fire burning what no longer serves. But they taught you it was dangerous, that if you let it out, you would become too much, that you would be rejected, alone, unloved. So you made yourself small, polite, acceptable. You called it maturity. You called it grace. You called it strength. But none of it was real strength. It was survival. Real strength is not how much you can endure. It's how clearly you can say, this is not for me. It's not in silence. It's in sovereignty. Because here is what no one told you. Your rage is not chaos. It is order. It reveals what's intolerable. It exposes what's misaligned. It demands what's true. It doesn't ask for destruction. It asks for boundaries. It doesn't seek to harm. It seeks to protect. A woman in touch with her rage is not a threat to the world. She is a threat to the systems that rely on her silence, to those who benefit from her exhaustion, to those who thrive off her submission, to those who count on her not knowing her worth. When a woman reclaims her fire, she becomes impossible to control. She stops begging. She stops apologizing. She stops bleeding for people who would never do the same for her. She chooses herself, over and over, not out of selfishness, out of truth. She no longer fears being called difficult. She no longer fears being too loud, too intense, too much. She knows that those words were weapons, designed to keep her asleep, and now she's awake. There is a version of you that's not afraid to say no, not afraid to walk away, not afraid to burn the bridge if the path was never safe. There is a version of you that's clear, grounded, unapologetic. She doesn't explode. She doesn't suppress. She channels. She is not destructive. She is precise. And her rage is not a wound. It is a compass. It points to where you abandoned yourself. It points to what must be reclaimed. It points to the door of your power and dares you to open it. The world told you to hide that fire. I'm telling you, let it rise. Because when your rage is no longer your secret, it becomes your shield. You were never broken for feeling too much. You were breaking for being told not to feel at all.